Good morning. Our sermon today is from the Gospel of John, chapter 5, verses 1 through 15. This particular chapter, Jesus is on his second trip to Jerusalem. John doesn't indicate, Jesus is going on a festival. John doesn't indicate what festival it was. All we know is that he's going to Jerusalem to a religious festival and it's on the Sabbath. The healing took place by a pool called Bethesda. A man was at this pool and he was healed by Jesus. The man had been crippled for 38 years. His situation had been hopeless. He had no idea how he would ever be healed. And yet he enters a discourse with Jesus, and not knowing who Jesus is, just through that discourse, the man is healed. There are a few critical points in this scripture. The man was healed by Jesus. The man did not need to go to the pool or to depend on others to get his healing. Healing took place on the Sabbath. And Jesus broke the rules, the church rules at that time, by healing this man on the Sabbath. So let us go and let us look carefully at this scripture lesson. The man was lying on a mat and he had been invalid for 38 years. Jesus asked the man, "Do you want to be healed?" The person responds, "Well, what do you mean, do I want to be healed? Of course, but I can't get healed," because the man had believed that there was a pool, and every now and then the pool would ripple from the blow of the air. And they believed that that was an angel touching the pool. And the first person to touch that water would get healed. And so for 38 years, this man hung around that pool hoping to touch that water first. But over those 38 years, he was never able to touch that water, and he was never able to get healed. So the person says, "I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. While I'm trying to get in, someone else always goes ahead of me." Now, Jesus doesn't address the man's concern. Jesus just simply asked him, "Do you want to be healed?" When the man indicated he wanted to be healed, Jesus says, "Get up, pick up your mat, and walk." At once the man was cured. He picked up his mat and he walked. Now, later, we find in the scripture that perhaps the man was ill from previous sinful acts, because Jesus stops by to visit the man. He says, "I see you're all well again." And then Jesus cautions the man, "Now stop sinning or something worse might happen to you." So we think that perhaps something happened in his life that made him paralyzed, but we're not sure. But the crux of the scripture is, do you want to be healed? And that is our lesson this morning. Do you want to be healed? And that's a very important question that God is asking us. Do you want to be healed? Now, the man was lying on a mat for 38 years. For 38 years, he had positioned himself near this pool of water, and he believed that when the water would ripple, it was a symbol of an angel touching the water, and the first person to touch that water would get healed. And the man had witnessed many people getting healed. Some would touch the water and not get healed, but many would. And so for 38 years, he saw people getting to that water and getting healed. For 38 years, he would try to get to that water first because he believed, and people believe it's only one person going to get healed, the first person. And for 38 years, he was never able to get that water ahead of anyone else. He was frustrated. He couldn't get a posse, a group of people to help him get to that water. He tried the best he can, but he was paralyzed. And so the scripture says he was the oldest person at that particular time around this pool of water, waiting and hoping one day to be healed. 38 years lying by a pool, watching people touch that water before he could. And yet he could not touch that water first, and he was not healed. The man was lying on a mat, 38 years, frustrated and in despair, and he could not be healed. He believed that he could get healed, but his healing was dependent upon others. Many of us are like that invalid man. Many times we're in a situation, we're in a marriage, we're in our career, we're just living our life, and yet we're not really happy. We're not really fulfilled. And we think the only way we can be happy is or fulfilled is through someone else. This man believed the only way he could get healed was for someone to take him that water first. And also, the only way he could be healed is to get to the water. So for him to be healed, he needed someone or a group to take him to the water and get to the water first, and for him to touch that water. So it's very frustrating to have a life and not feel fulfilled. And the only way he could be fulfilled is by depending on someone else. He had to depend on someone else to take him that water, someone else to get him to that water before anyone else, and depending on that water to be touched by an angel for him to be healed. So his whole life, happiness, was dependent upon other people. And other people was letting him down. Many of us are like that man. We're dependent on someone else. We say, oh, I have a good marriage once I get a good husband. Or I have a good marriage once I get a good wife. Or I handle my money once I hit the lottery. Oh, I'm going to be a good worker once I get a good job. Oh, I'll be an excellent parent once I get some decent kids. Oh, I'll make it in this world once I get rid of the white folk. Oh, I'll make it in this world once I get rid of the black folk. Oh, no, me, I'll make it in the world once I get rid of the Mexican Americans. Someone else said, no, I'll be better and be better off once I get rid of the Chinese. Still, we have a nation that would divide itself around sex and say, the world will be better once I get rid of the man. Or the men say the world will be better once we get rid of the women. So many of us are filled with hatred and prejudice, and we blame others for our situation. And like the man lying on a mat for 38 years, he said, man, I could get healed if I could just get some decent people to pick me up and to pick me up to this water and have me touch that water before anyone else touches it when an angel comes by. And he lays in that. We lay in our sickness and in our brokenness, waiting for someone else to rescue us. Yeah, we become a people that will beg for our needs and spend on our wants. We are people that will make excuses for our condition, blaming others, but never looking at ourselves. So this man is an invalid. He's been an invalid for 38 years. The only way he can see himself being healed is for someone else to take him to that water before anyone else touches that water, when the water is rippled or touched by an angel. And for 38 years, he's suffering. And the only way he can see himself delivered from that suffering is through someone else. Jesus meets the man, and he simply asks, do you want to be healed? Jesus is meeting you today and speaking to you, and he's asking you, do you want to be healed? Now, we can go over a list of reasons why we're in the condition that we are. My wife, my husband, job, money, black people, white people, Hispanic people, Chinese people, women, men. Oh, it's the conservatives destroying the country. It's the liberals destroying this country. Abortion, right, wrong, pro-abortion, anti-abortion, atheists, heterosexuals, homosexuals. We got a lot of people that we can blame for our condition. But like the man that was an invalid for those 38 years, Jesus is not interested in entertaining your prejudice and concerns about others. He's just simply asking you, do you want to be healed? Yeah, I want to be healed, but it's these white folks. Yeah, I want to be healed, but it's these black folks. You know, if you listen, go on these websites. When someone is anti-white, they're going a litany telling you how terrible white people are, how they're destroying the country, and how they're terrible. But you can then go on another website that hate blacks, and they tell you how terrible blacks are. It's interesting. We always blame someone else. So it's interesting. Those who are the most racist really have the most in common, because they tend to blame other people for their situation. Well, Jesus is simply asking, do you want to be healed? I'm not talking about white people, black people. I'm not talking about the conservatives and the liberals. I'm talking about you. Do you want to be healed? Many people don't want to be healed because often when I first read the scripture, I said, "Why would Jesus ask a man, do you want to be healed? He's laying in this mat for 38 years by a water to be healed. And why would Jesus ask this question, do you want to be healed?" Well, I thought about it and it came to me. Many people don't want to be healed. Many people are just simply lazy. And so he could have said, "No, I don't want to be healed. I'd rather just keep laying in this mat and blaming other people for my situation and let people take care of me. Because when I lay on this mat, see, by this water, people feel sorry for me. They throw me some food, they throw me some water. And so this could be my job. Just lay here on this mat, talk about I can't get healed because of other people, other forces in this world, and they take care and feed me." So some people don't want to be healed because they're lazy. Others don't want to be healed because they believe that they cannot be successful because the world is evil and controlled by evil. They believe, "Oh, I can't be healed because there's evil forces in this world and they're holding me back." And they rather believe in the evil forces. So we have some that are just lazy. They don't want to be healed. They rather lay in their situation and complain and live off the charities of others. Others don't want to be healed because they see the world as evil and they feel the world is controlled by evil. Many of them themselves are evil. So it's easy for them to believe that the whole world is evil. It's always interesting. Persons say, "Oh, they're just putting this virus out to kill people." I said, "Do you believe every single scientist in the world who study these viruses and see people putting the virus out to kill people, that they're going to accept that?" "Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah." "You think every doctor is going to lie to you?" "Oh, yeah." They'll read one story about one doctor. "See, that one doctor lied. They all lying." I said, "You believe every physician, every scientist, every human being is who's in this situation that you claim is killing people, going to purposely put out virus to kill people, and no one's going to tell?" I said, "Somebody's going to always tell." Many people are going to tell because it's the ethical thing to do. Others are going to tell so they can get some money. Because a lot of times, that whistleblower act, you whistleblow, you can get all kinds of money for whistleblowing. But just to believe that the entire world or some entire organization is going to get together and decide we're going to kill people and no one's going to tell them, and we're going to put out fake vaccinations and all that, and you think every scientist, every doctor believes that? That's the evil inside you. But anyway, we said many people don't want to be healed because they're either lazy or because they think the world is evil and everyone's plotting against them. A third reason that many people don't get healed is because they believe their destiny is controlled by others. That's the most common reason, I think, here in America. "I'm not going to get healed because that husband's crazy. I can never be happy. I cannot be happy because my work is crazy. I cannot be happy because my children are bad. I cannot be happy because whatever reason." And they believe that outside forces control their destiny. "I can't be healed because I can't give enough money in church." They have all kinds of reasons. They think actually giving money to a religious organization can somehow heal them. And so many people feel their destiny is determined by others. So they don't even try. They just sit back, lay on their mat, and talk about how they are the way they are because their destiny is controlled by other people. Well, Jesus doesn't entertain these thoughts. He's not going to discuss to you about how the world's controlled by evil and how your destiny is determined by other. Jesus ignores that. All Jesus is asked, "Do you want to be healed?" And when the man answered affirmative, he said, "Then get up, pick up your mat and walk." And the scripture says, and at once the man is cured. He got up, picked up his mat and walked. And watch this here. The man was cured. He didn't need people to carry him to the water. He didn't need to touch the water before when the angels would ripple the water. He didn't need water. He didn't need people. All he needed was a conversation with Jesus. "Do you want to be healed?" "Yeah." "Well, you don't need these people. You don't need that water. Just get up, pick up your mat and walk." Many times we put too much value on other people for our happiness and our success. And we live a life waiting for someone else to bless us. But do you want to be healed? Stand up, take up your mat, and walk, and God will give you the victory. Having a brief talk with Jesus. Now, watch this also. The man did not know that Jesus was the Son of God. So he had a talk with Jesus and didn't even know who Jesus was. But just having that talk, he was empowered to take control of his destiny. And though he was there for 38 years as an invalid, he was able to rise, pick up his mat, and walk. Having a brief talk with God can change your entire life. It's not about if I got a good husband, I'll be a good wife. It's not about if I get a good wife, I'll be a good husband. It's not about if I hit the lottery, I'll handle my money better. It's not about if I get a good job, then I'll be a good worker. It's not about if my children was better, I'll be a better parent. It's not about if that white man wouldn't keep holding me down, I'll be prosperous. It's not about if these black people wouldn't be holding me down and destroying the country, I'd be prosperous. It's not about Hispanic, Mexican, Chinese. It's not about men and women. It's not about conservative and liberal. Now, we live in a country today where really the most popular religion in this country is conservative and liberal. People worship being conservative and worship being liberal, but it's not about that. It's not about being pro-abortion or anti-abortion. It's not about being a Christian or atheist. It's not about being heterosexual or homosexual. It's about having a talk with Jesus. It's about listening to the voice of God. It's about believing in good karma. And you are the author of your life. You're called to be proactive, not reactive. The gentleman was reactive while he was laying on that mat. No one's helping me. No one's getting me to the water. It's just a mess. But he had a talk with God. He didn't even know who he was, but he just had a talk. And in that talk, he became proactive. He got up, took up his mat, and walked. Do you want to be healed today? Do you want to be successful today? Do you want to be happy today? Do you want to follow your dreams today? Stop looking at others. Just get up, take up your mat, and walk. Walk towards your healing. Walk towards your success. Walk towards your happiness. Walk towards your dreams, believing that if I just walk to it, there's a force, a universe that's arc toward justice. There's positive karma, or as old Christian says, there's Jesus Christ, and he will give me the victory. Do you want to be healed? Get up, walk and apply to that school. Get up, walk and apply to that job. Get up, start handling your money right now with integrity. Walk and be a good woman. Walk and be a good man. Walk and move towards your dream. Oh, they're back and say, you ain't going to be successful. There's the white man. There's the black man. There's being a female. There's being a male. You're too fat. You're too skinny. You're too this, you're that. Ignore all that. So yeah, all these things are true. But I also want to be healed. So I'm going to walk toward it because I believe that if I walk toward my blessings, I will be blessed. There's a positive force. There's a positive karma that if I put out good, I'll get good. Do you want to be healed? Now, notice, if you will, the gentleman had been on that mat for 38 years. Lying on that mat, people go by and throw him food, give him a little water, hoping to get healed. He's never getting healed, never able to touch the water in time. And he laid in that mat. You can imagine, he probably smelled horrible and everything. And people throw food at him and give him water, throw some coins at him. And he laid in that mat for 38 years and no one said anything. But the minute he had a talk with Jesus, he was able to get off that mat, pick up his mat and walk. And then the scripture says people are getting hate. What are you doing getting healed on the Sabbath? Now, the Sabbath in the Old Testament day was Saturday. Our Sabbath today is Sunday. The original Sabbath is Saturday. But then the Christian church changed our Sabbath to Sunday because that's the day Jesus rose from the grave. But nevertheless, there was haters. What are you doing getting healed on a Sabbath? What are you doing walking with that mat on the Sabbath? They had a fit that this man was healed and walking on the Sabbath. But watch this here. They didn't care when he was hungry on the Sabbath. They didn't care that when he was lying on that mat begging for food and getting healed on the Sabbath. That's all right. See, as long as you're talking crazy and not doing nothing and blaming everybody else for your needs, people accept that. That's fine. Looking at me laying around begging for help. That's fine. But the minute you stop begging and get up and stand up like a man and a woman and walk towards your blessing, haters come. They started hating. They didn't hate while he was down there on that mat, stinking and bagging and eating food. That was fine. But the minute he had a talk with Jesus, was able to stand up like a man and pick up that mat and walk home, people begin to hate on you. So when you follow your blessings, folk will hate you. But nevertheless, that's just a side point. The most important point is, do you want to be healed? Do you want to be healed in your marriage? Do you want to be healed in your career? Do you want to be healed in your life? Do you want to be healed in your finances? Then stand up and take control of your life and walk towards your blessing. Don't let a bad spouse or naughty children or discouraging people at work rob you of your happiness. You can say, I'm going to be healed. I'm just going to walk and follow Jesus. I'm going to be a good woman no matter if I meet a bad man. I'm going to be a good wife no matter what my husband is. I'm going to be a good husband no matter what my wife is, because it ain't about my husband or my wife. It's about me and my Jesus. Do you want to be healed? We have many valid reasons to feel sad. We have many valid reasons to feel hopeless. We have many valid reasons to feel that we're in failure and can't escape. I know what's out there in this world, but God is speaking to you today. And he realizes there's all the harms around you, but he just simply asks you, do you want to be healed? Because see, God says he will feed us in the presence of enemies. He's not going to remove your enemies. And you keep looking at the enemies getting all upset. Ignore that and look to God. Have a conversation with God. Do you want to be healed? I know your situation. I know what's there. But who are you going to look at? Nowhere in that Bible says God will bless you if the enemy's not around. Or God will bless you if the white man don't hold you back. Or God will bless you if the black man don't hold you back. Or God will bless you if the conservatives are not in office. Or God will bless you if the liberals are not in office. It's not about conservative, liberal, not Republican and Democrat, not about male or female. It's about, do you want to be healed? And God will bless you in the presence of the enemy. Yeah, you have a lot of reasons to be sad, valid reasons. But there's also God. And God super rules. Do you want to be healed? There was a holy gentleman named Elkanah. And Elkanah had two wives. One wife he really loved. Her name was Hannah. But Hannah didn't have any children. And back in this Old Testament time, having children was very important, because children was your source of wealth. The males would well, at that time they worked in the fields, so they generated more wealth, and your wealth was also passed through the males. So it's very important to have children, particularly males at that particular time in the Old Testament era. And this particular time, they allowed to have man have more than one wife. So he had two wives, but the one wife that he loved the most was Hannah. But Hannah didn't have any children. Now, the other wife, her name was Peninnah. Peninnah, she had a lot of children. And so she would always confront and belittle Hannah, because Hannah didn't have any children. Hannah was very sad. But husband said, don't worry about it. I love you. You don't never have any children. It doesn't make any difference. I love you. You're going to be number one in my life, and we're going to continue on. But she was very sad. One day the family went to the synagogue for worship. And while at the synagogue, Hannah, the wife who didn't have any children, prayed and cried to the Lord, asking, would God grant her a child? And if God would grant her a child, she would dedicate that child back to God. She'd just give me a child so that when my husband dies, he have a child that he could pass on some of his inheritance through. There was a high priest named Eli. Eli saw the woman crying and praying and carrying on. He thought she was drunk. He said, well, what you doing, mumbling and acting and being drunk in here? And she explained, oh, no, I'm not drunk. I'm just crying to the Lord because I'm asking for a blessing. Well, when the priest saw that she was sincere, the priest says, may God bless you. Well, she returns home and she becomes pregnant. And she gives birth to a beautiful baby boy named Samuel. She praised God for his mercy. And now she had a son. After the child was weaned off the mother and grew a little, she brought the child, Samuel, back to the church, back to the tabernacle. And she went to the priest, Eli, and said, God blessed me with a son. And I asked God that if he gave me a son, I would dedicate him back to God. So I'm giving this, my son, to be your servant in the synagogue. He can work in the synagogue and take care of the religious leaders, because I promised God that my firstborn would be given back to God. So Eli, the high priest, accepts Samuel, and Samuel begins to work in the church and become a church servant, serving Eli and his sons, who were the priests at that particular time. Well, when Samuel was 12 years old and he was serving Eli and Eli's sons, a voice said, Samuel. So Samuel woke up and went to his leader, Eli, and said, yes, sir, I'm here. I heard you call me. Eli, the priest, said, I didn't call you. Go on back to sleep. So he went back again. He heard another voice, Samuel. He got up a second time and went to his master, Eli, the priest, and said, sir, I'm here because I keep hearing you call me. Eli said, no, I didn't call you. Go back to sleep. A third time, Samuel hears the voice, Samuel. And a third time he goes to Eli, the priest, and said, look, sir, I've heard you 3 times call my name. What do you want me to do? At that time, Eli, the high priest, said, son, 3 times you heard your name called? He said, yes. 3 times you heard the voice? He said, yes. That's God. The next time you call, just respond, speak, Lord, your servant hears. And on the 4th time, God whispered again, Samuel. And Samuel said, speak, Lord, your servant hears. And Samuel became one of the greatest prophets and the greatest holy men in the Bible. Now, he had a lot of reasons not to be a holy man. He was not born in the family to be a priest. He didn't have the education or the culture. He was born to be a servant, but he had a conversation with God, and God made him a leader. Do you want to be healed? Just listen to God, and God will bless you. Do you want to be healed? God is asking you today, do you want to be healed? Do you want to be successful? Do you want to be happy? Do you want to follow your dreams? Then take up your mat. Walk straight to your destiny, because God controls your destiny, not human beings. Apply to that school. Apply to that job. Handle the money you have got right now with integrity. Be a good woman. Well, but that man ain't no good. Forget that man. You just be a good woman, and I'm going to bless you. Be a good man. Oh, but my wife don't understand. Don't worry about your wife. You just be a good man, and I'll bless you. Take your blessings. Do you want to be healed? People have responded to God and have been blessed with all obstacles against them. As a Black American, I get excited when we talk about how terrible our schools are and this and that and the other. And many of our inner city schools are horrible. But yet, even in the terribleness of our public schools, 5% of our doctors in America are Black Americans. 45% of Black Americans make $50,000 or more a year. 28% of African Americans make over $75,000 a year. 18% of Black Americans make $100,000 or more a year. And watch this here. Do you want to be healed? 8% of all millionaires in the United States are Black Americans. 8%. So 1.8 million African Americans are millionaires in this country. Yeah, I know all the racism. I know the problems. But do you want to be healed? If you want to be healed, seek your blessing. March out to your dream, and God will bless you. This is Victor Frost coming to you, Church Without Walls. Peace and God bless. In the midst of your problems, God is asking, do you want to be healed? God bless.